You want to know why I never go home for the holidays anymore? Why I changed my name and moved 3 states away from the house I grew up in. Sit down, pour yourself something strong, and I'll tell you about the attic that remembers everything. But I'm warning you now, once you hear this story, you'll never look at old houses the same way again. Before we pull back the curtain further on this saga, tell me, where are you watching from? And if you crave more tales of those things that are too strange to believe, please hit that like button and subscribe. Also, don't forget to ring the bell. It started when my grandmother died last October. Grandma Millicent had lived in that Victorian monstrosity on Elm Street for 73 years, and when the lawyer read her will, she'd left the whole damn thing to me. Not to my parents, not to my Uncle Ray, who'd been kissing her ass for decades. To me, her youngest grandchild, the one who'd barely visited since I turned 18. The house squatted on its lot like a diseased tumor, all peeling paint and rotting gingerbread trim. 3 stories of Gothic revival architecture that the neighborhood kids crossed the street to avoid. I should have sold it immediately, should have taken whatever some developer would pay and walked away. But I was broke, fresh out of college with student loans breathing down my neck, and the thought of free rent in a house I'd eventually inherit anyway seemed like a gift from the grave. I moved in on a gray November morning when the wind was already starting to bite. The first thing that hit me was the smell, not the musty odor you'd expect from a house that had been closed up for months, but something else. Something that reminded me of old photographs and forgotten prayers. The air itself felt thick, weighted with years of accumulated, grief? Secrets? I couldn't put my finger on it then. The house was a museum of my family's history. Every room was crammed with furniture that had been old when my great-grandparents were young. Doilies covered every surface, and the walls were lined with photographs spanning nearly a century. There were pictures of relatives I'd never heard of, children in sailor suits and women in high collars, their eyes following you with that peculiar intensity that old photographs seemed to possess. But it was the 3rd floor that called to me, the attic. Grandma Millicent had always kept it locked. Even as a child, when I'd visited during summers, that narrow door at the end of the 2nd floor hallway remained sealed. I'd asked about it once, and she'd gone pale, muttering something about things best left undisturbed before changing the subject so abruptly it left me feeling like I'd stumbled onto forbidden ground. Now, with a ring of her keys in my hand, I found myself standing before that door on my 3rd night in the house. The key turned easily, as if it had been waiting for this moment. The hinges protested with a shriek that seemed to echo through the bones of the house itself. A narrow staircase led up into darkness. I clicked on my phone's flashlight and climbed. The attic was larger than I'd expected, running the full length of the house. Dust motes danced in my phone's pale light like tiny ghosts. But it wasn't empty, far from it. The space was filled with boxes, trunks, and furniture covered in white sheets that looked like shrouds in the dim light. And there, in the center of it all, sat an old rocking chair facing a small window that looked out over the town. It was when I approached that chair that I heard it for the first time, a sound like whispers, but not quite. More like the house itself was breathing, sighing with the weight of all its accumulated years. I told myself it was just the wind in the eaves, old wood settling, the normal sounds of an ancient house. But even then, I knew I was lying to myself. I spent that first week exploring the attic during the day, when sunlight filtered through the window and made everything seem less ominous. The boxes contained decades of my family's detritus, old clothes, Christmas decorations, children's toys that had probably belonged to my father and his siblings. There were photo albums filled with faces I didn't recognize, and documents that traced our family tree back to the 1800s. But it was the journals I found that changed everything. They were hidden in a steamer trunk pushed back against the far wall, dozens of leather-bound volumes that smelled of vanilla and decay. The earliest was dated 1952, written in my great-grandmother's spidery handwriting. I opened it at random and read, "The attic knows about Harold. It saw what happened in the barn that day, and now it won't let me forget. I can hear it whispering when I try to sleep. reminding me of the weight of his body, the sound he made when he fell. I thought I could keep it buried, but the house remembers everything. My hands shook as I turned the pages. Harold had been my great-grandmother's brother, the one who'd supposedly died in a farming accident when she was young. But according to her journal, it hadn't been an accident at all. She'd pushed him from the hayloft during an argument, watched him break his neck on the barn floor, and then concocted the story about him falling while doing chores. I found more journals spanning decades. Each generation of women in my family had written in them, and they all contained the same theme: confessions of sins, admissions of guilt, secrets that should have died with their keepers. My grandmother's journals were the most recent, filled with entries about the neighbor's dog she'd poisoned because it barked too much, about the tax money she'd stolen from the church fund, about the hit-and-run accident she'd never reported. And in every journal they mentioned the attic, how it watched, how it remembered, how it wouldn't let them forget. I should have left then, should have packed my bags and walked away from that house and its accumulated guilt, but I couldn't stop reading. It was like picking at a scab, painful but compulsive. These were my relatives, my blood, and I was learning things about them that no one else knew. Dark things, shameful things, things that made me understand why my family had always seemed so haunted, so careful with their words. It was on the 10th night that the attic started talking to me directly. I'd been sitting in that rocking chair, reading my grandmother's journals by lamplight, when I heard my name whispered in the darkness behind me. Not shouted, not called, whispered, as if the house itself was trying not to wake the dead. Sarah. I spun around, heart hammering, but saw nothing except shadows and sheet-covered furniture. The whisper came again, seeming to emanate from the very walls. "Sarah, come see." Against every instinct screaming at me to run, I stood and followed the voice toward the back corner of the attic. There, behind a collection of old Christmas decorations, I found something I'd missed in my earlier explorations. A small door, no more than 4 feet high, cut into the wall. The voice was coming from behind that door. "Come see what you've done, Sarah. Come see what you've inherited." My hand was trembling as I reached for the handle. The door opened on hinges that moved silently, as if they'd been recently oiled. Beyond was a space so dark my flashlight couldn't penetrate it, but I could hear movement in that darkness, a rustling like pages turning. "Step inside, Sarah. It's time." I should have run. I should have called the police, a priest, anyone who might have believed me or at least taken me seriously. Instead, I found myself ducking through that door into the space beyond. It was bigger than it should have been, impossibly bigger. The laws of physics said there couldn't be a room this size hidden in the corner of an attic, but there it was, stretching away into darkness in all directions. And it was filled with books. Thousands upon thousands of books, their pages fluttering open without any wind to stir them. But these weren't ordinary books. As I got closer, I could see that each one was handwritten, and the handwriting was familiar. It was the same spidery script I'd seen in my great-grandmother's journals, the same careful cursive from my grandmother's confessions, the same block letters my mother had used when she was young. Every book was a journal. Every page contained a secret, a sin, a shame that someone in my family had tried to hide, and they were all here, in this impossible space, where the attic kept its memories. "Do you understand now?" The voice was clearer here, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Do you see what this house has been doing all these years?" I opened one of the books at random and saw my own handwriting, my own words, describing things I'd never written down, things I'd barely admitted to myself, the time I'd cheated on my college entrance exams, the lie I'd told that got my roommate expelled, the accident I'd caused while texting and driving, leaving a cyclist with a broken leg and driving away before anyone could get my license plate. "How?" I whispered. "This house has been in your family for over a century," the voice replied, and I realized it wasn't coming from the walls anymore. It was coming from the books themselves, as if each shameful memory had found a voice. Every generation that's lived here has fed it their secrets, their guilt, their unspoken sins. and now it's strong enough to take them directly from your mind, to write them down before you even realize what you're thinking. I dropped the book and backed toward the door, but it was no longer there. The wall was solid, unbroken, as if the entrance had never existed. Where do you think you're going, Sarah? You're part of this family now, part of this house. Your secrets belong here, just like everyone else's. More books began falling open around me, their pages turning rapidly as new words appeared on blank paper. I could see my entire history of shame being transcribed in real time. Every lie, every moment of cruelty, every selfish act I'd committed and tried to forget. The books were writing faster than any human hand ever could, as if the house was downloading the contents of my guilt directly onto paper. "Stop it!" I screamed, but the books only wrote faster. "This is what your family has always been," the voice continued, calm and inexorable. Each generation, thinking they could escape their nature, could rise above their inheritance of shame. But guilt is like a stain, Sarah. It seeps into everything. It passes from parent to child, grandmother to granddaughter, generation to generation. And this house remembers it all. I tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The room seemed to stretch infinitely in every direction, filled with nothing but books documenting decades of family sins. I could hear my ancestors' voices now, all of them talking at once, confessing their crimes to anyone who would listen. My great-grandmother spoke of the brother she'd murdered. My grandmother wept about the children she'd failed to save. Relatives I'd never known admitted to adultery, theft, neglect, abuse. The air was thick with whispered confessions, decades of guilt given voice. And through it all, the books kept writing. I don't know how long I was trapped in that room. Time seemed meaningless there, measured only by the accumulation of documented shame. I watched books fill with my sins, then new books appear to continue the record. Every cruel thought, every selfish impulse, every moment of moral cowardice was being preserved for eternity. Eventually, exhaustion took over, and I collapsed among the books. When I woke up, if I actually slept, if what happened was actually waking, I was back in the attic, sitting in the rocking chair facing the window. Dawn was breaking over the town, and birds were singing as if nothing had happened. But I could still hear the whispers. They followed me downstairs, into the kitchen, into the bathroom. Everywhere I went, the house whispered my secrets back to me, a constant murmuring of shame that made concentration impossible. I tried leaving, driving into town, but the whispers followed me there too. They weren't coming from the house anymore. They were coming from inside my own head, as if the attic had planted something there that would never leave. I lasted 3 more days before I snapped. I went back up to the attic with a can of gasoline and a book of matches. If the house wanted to remember everything, I'd give it something worth remembering. I doused the walls, the furniture, the journals I'd found, everything. The smell of gasoline mixed with that peculiar odor of old photographs and forgotten prayers. But when I struck the match, nothing happened. The flame appeared, flickered for a moment, then died as if smothered by invisible hands. I tried again and again, but every match died the moment it was lit. The house wouldn't let me burn it down. It wouldn't let me destroy its collection of family shame. That's when I understood the real horror of my inheritance. It wasn't just a house, it was a trap, a generational curse disguised as a gift. My family had been feeding it their guilt for over a century, and now it was strong enough to take what it wanted without permission. It would keep me here, keep extracting my secrets, keep adding to its vast library of human failing. Unless I found someone else to take my place. The journals made it clear. That's how it had always worked. Each generation stayed until they could pass the curse to the next, until they could convince some younger family member to accept their inheritance. The house didn't just remember everything, it demanded everything. Every shame, every secret, every moment of moral compromise had to be documented, preserved, added to its endless collection. That's why I'm telling you this story. That's why I sought you out, cousin. I know we've never been close, Know you barely remember me from those family reunions when we were kids. But we share blood, and that's all the house needs. That's all it's ever needed. The deed is in your name now. I had it transferred this morning. Congratulations, you've just inherited a beautiful Victorian home on Elm Street, free and clear. The keys are in this envelope along with the address. You should probably go check on your new property soon. I understand there's been some kind of gas leak, and the neighbors are complaining about strange noises at night. Don't thank me. Really, don't. And whatever you do, don't go up to the attic on your first night there. Wait until you've settled in, until you've gotten comfortable, until curiosity finally gets the better of you. The house will wait. It's very patient. It remembers everything, but it's learned that the best secrets are the ones people volunteer. It's learned that guilt is like wine. It gets stronger with age, richer with time. And it's learned that every family has someone weak enough, desperate enough, or curious enough to open a door that should stay closed. You'll probably think I'm crazy when you read this letter. You'll probably assume I had some kind of breakdown after inheriting an old house. That grief and stress made me imagine things that weren't there. That's what I would have thought a few months ago. But you'll go anyway. Of course you will. Free real estate is free real estate, especially in this economy. And when you're standing in that attic, looking at all those covered shapes in the dim light, when you hear that first whisper calling your name, you'll remember this letter. You'll remember my warning, and it won't matter. Because by then, you'll already be part of the collection. Another voice in the chorus of family shame, another set of secrets for the house to remember. The attic doesn't just store our guilt, it multiplies it, compounds it, passes it down like a genetic disease that gets worse with each generation. I'm leaving tonight. I've got a new name, a new identity, a life waiting for me in a state where no one knows my family name. I'll probably spend the rest of my years looking over my shoulder, waiting for the whispers to find me again. But at least I'll have years. At least I'll have a chance. You won't get that chance. Not now that the deed is in your name. Not now that the house has your scent. I'm sorry, cousin, I really am. But someone has to feed the attic, and I've done my time. 4 months of having my worst moments cataloged, my deepest shames documented, my most private failures exposed. 4 months of hearing my ancestors confess their crimes in voices that sounded like wind through broken glass. I can't do it anymore. So I'm passing it to you like it was passed to me, like it's been passed down through our bloodline for over a century. This is your inheritance now. A house that remembers everything and forgives nothing. An attic that collects secrets like other people collect stamps. Don't go looking for that hidden room behind the Christmas decorations. Don't read the journals you'll find in the steamer trunk. Don't sit in the rocking chair and listen to the whispers that will promise to tell you family secrets if you'll just stay a little longer. But you will. Of course you will. Curiosity is in our blood, along with the guilt and the shame and the tendency toward moral compromise that the house feeds on. We've never been strong people, our family. We've always been the type to take shortcuts, to make questionable choices, to look the other way when something was wrong. That's why the house chose us. That's why it's kept us for so long. The whispers are getting stronger now, even here in this coffee shop 3 towns away where I'm writing this letter. They're calling me back, promising that if I return now, if I accept my role as keeper of the family shame, they'll make it easier. They'll let me sleep at night? They'll stop showing me the new entries being written in books I'll never see again. But I won't go back, I can't. I've seen what's waiting in that impossible room behind the little door, seen the endless library of documented sin that stretches beyond the boundaries of physics and reason. I've heard the voices of dead relatives confessing crimes that should have stayed buried, seen my own worst moments transcribed in handwriting that belongs to no living person. The house that remembers everything is your problem now, cousin. Your inheritance, your curse. Try not to stay too long in the attic. Try not to listen too carefully to the whispers. Try not to read too much of what's written in those books. And whatever you do, don't open that little door, but you will. They always do. The house is counting on it. P.S. I almost forgot to mention the most important thing. Whatever you do, don't try to research the history of the house online. Don't look up property records or old newspaper articles about the previous owners. There are some things even the internet has forgotten, some stories that exist now only in that room behind the little door. The house has made sure of that. It's very protective of its collection. But you'll probably look anyway. Curiosity is in our blood, remember? And when you find nothing, no records, no history, no trace that the house ever existed before our family owned it, you'll understand just how powerful our inheritance really is. Sleep well, cousin, while you still can. What's the strangest thing that's ever happened to you? Did you tell anyone, and did they believe you or thought you just made it up? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this narrative resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more insights on building resilience and rediscovering purpose. Thank you for being a part of this journey.
Imagine a house. Not just any old house, but one that's been standing there for decades, just silently watching, listening. If those walls could actually talk, what stories, what secrets, might be trapped inside?
It's a really potent image, isn't it? The idea that a building, something we think of as inanimate, could be this active archive of everything that's happened within it, a witness.
Exactly. And that whole fascinating idea, that's what we're really digging into today.
Yeah.
We're using a source, a pretty chilling horror story called The Attic That Remembers Everything.
Right.
So our mission here is to unpack this story, go beyond just the surface plot and explore how it treats memory and guilt, and really try to get a handle on the nature of this curse it describes.
Yeah, what kind of insights does it give us about, say, inherited burdens, family history, the dark stuff?
Precisely, and what does it even mean for a place to remember?
The author does a great job setting a mood right off the bat, don't you think? It's not your standard haunted house. The past feels heavy, like it's right there with you.
Okay, let's set the scene then. Our narrator is Sarah. She inherits this house from her grandma Millicent. She calls it a Victorian monstrosity on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Been in the family 73 years, apparently. Described with peeling paint and rotting gingerbread trim. You know the type. So
Yep.
creepy neighborhood kids avoid it.
Right. They cross the street.
Yeah. But Sarah, she's just out of college, basically broke. So for her, it's like this gift from the grave. A solution, maybe?
But the house signals something's off immediately, even before she really settles in. Like the smell, it's not just musty old house smell.
No, it's described as like old photographs and forgotten prayers.
Yeah.
Which is evocative.
Very. And the air itself feels thick, weighted with years of accumulated grief, secrets. It instantly sets it up as more than just wood and plaster.
It's a museum of family history, she says. Full of old furniture, photos of relatives she doesn't know whose eyes seem to follow you. That constant feeling of being watched.
Yeah, that sense of surveillance, it's there from the moment she arrives. An omnipresence.
It's super effective. But even with all these, creepy vibes, it's the attic, the third floor attic, that pulls her in.
The classic locked room.
Totally. Grandma Millicent always kept it locked. Used to mutter about things best left undisturbed.
Which, of course, just makes it forbidden ground, makes you want to know what's in there even more.
Right. It becomes the central mystery, doesn't it? Symbolizing all the family secrets, maybe?
Absolutely. So when Sarah finally gets in there on her third night, using Grandma's keys, the description of the sound the hinges make.
Oh, yeah. A shriek that seemed to echo through the domes of the house itself.
It feels significant, like the house itself is protesting, maybe? Resisting having its secrets uncovered. It's like a warning shot.
And the attic itself.
Yeah.
It's huge. Bigger than she expected, running the whole length of the house.
Filled with boxes, trunks, furniture under sheets that look like shrouds. Kind of ominous.
And there's an old rocking chair just sitting there in the middle. And then she hears it. This sound.
What kind of sound?
Not exactly whispers, she says. More like the house itself was breathing, sighing with the weight of all its accumulated years.
Wow.
She tries to dismiss it, tells herself it's just the wind, drafts. But she admits, I was lying to myself.
That's interesting, that immediate self-deception. Is that the house working on her already, do you think? Or just human nature trying to rationalize the weird?
That's a great question. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of both.
Could be. The house starts subtly, lets you explain it away. But that little voice inside, her knowing she's lying, that suggests she recognizes something's really wrong on a gut level.
Yeah, that conflict. Logic versus intuition.
And it's maybe the first real hint that the house isn't passive. It's breathing. It's present.
So Sarah spends that first week exploring, finding the usual stuff, heirlooms, old photos. But then she finds something else, something hidden.
Okay, this sounds like the turning point.
It is. In this old steamer trunk, she finds dozens of leather-bound volumes, journals. And they smell weirdly of vanilla and decay.
Vanilla and decay. Huh. That's specific. And journals are always where the secrets are, right?
Especially these ones. This is where it gets really dark. She starts reading, and there's a pattern.
What kind of pattern?
The oldest one is from 1952, her great-grandmother. And it contains this absolutely shocking confession.
Oh, boy.
She confesses to pushing her own brother, Harold, from a hayloft. Killed him. They were arguing, and she made it look like a farming accident.
Whoa.
Okay, that's heavy.
And the entry says, explicitly, the attic knows about Harold. It saw what happened in the barn that day, and now it won't let me forget.
So right from the start, the attic is positioned as this witness, this keeper of guilt.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. Her grandmother's journals, they have their own secrets. Poisoning a neighbor's dog. Stealing tax money from the church. An unreported hit and run.
Wow. So it's not just one bad apple. It's a lineage of, well, bad deeds.
That's the key thing. The story says every generation of women in this family wrote in these journals. Confessions of sins, guilt, secrets they should have taken to the grave.
And crucially,
in every journal, they mention the attic, how it watched, how it remembered, how it wouldn't let them forget.
it's like this compulsion to confess, but not to a person, or even to God, really. To the house, to the attic. It's a bizarre, maybe even grotesque form of record keeping.
Yeah, like it demands it.
Yeah.
It's not cathartic. It sounds like it just reinforces the guilt.
Living with that kind of pressure, knowing this thing knows your worst secrets and won't let you forget, that's a psychological prison.
And Sarah, she can't stop reading. She says it's like picking at a scab, painful but compulsive.
Understandable in a horrifying way. It's her family's history, the dark underbelly, why they always seemed haunted.
Yeah, it wasn't ghosts in the traditional sense, maybe. It was this accumulated, recorded guilt.
The house as a monument to shame. And unlike human memory, which fades or edits things, the attic's memory is perfect, unforgiving. It strips away denial.
Which you could argue is scarier than a ghost.
Absolutely. But then it escalates, right? The house isn't just a passive archive anymore.
Not at all. On the 10th night, the attic starts talking directly to Sarah, whispering her name. Sarah, come see.
Okay, that's the shift. From creepy implication to overt something. Malice.
Yeah.
Intent.
Definitely intent. It leads her to this little door, only about 4 feet high, hidden behind a collection of old Christmas decorations. And it opens silently.
Uh-oh. The hidden passage. Always a bad sign.
And what's behind it? It breaks reality a bit. The space is impossibly bigger than it could possibly be.
Ah, the non-Euclidean geometry trick. Classic horror trope, but effective.
Totally. It stretches into darkness, and it's filled with books. Thousands upon thousands of books, pages fluttering with no wind. And they're all handwritten journals from everyone in the family.
So it's not just the women's journals from the trunk, it's everything.
Everyone, apparently. This impossible room is like the attic's core, its library of guilt.
But then comes the real kicker, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. She finds a book. And it's in her handwriting.
No.
Yes. Detailing things she'd never written down, things I'd barely admitted to myself.
Rough what?
Cheating on college exams.
Yeah.
Lying to get a roommate kicked out. Causing a hit and run herself while texting and driving. Things she hadn't confessed. Maybe hadn't even fully processed.
So the house isn't just recording confessions anymore, it's extracting them.
That's exactly it. The voice clearer now, coming from the books, explains. The house has been in the family over a century. Each generation fed it their secrets.
Fed it. Like it consumes them.
And now it's strong enough to take them directly from your mind, to write them down before you even realize what you're thinking.
That's terrifying. Psychic vampirism almost. It doesn't wait for you to feel guilty. It pulls the potential guilt right out.
And then the final horror, in that moment she looks back and the little door she came through is gone. She's trapped.
Oh, man. So it's actively transcribing her entire history of shame in real time.
Yeah. The voice says, this is what your family has always been. Guilt is like a stain. It passes from parent to child, generation to generation in this house. This house remembers it all.
It makes the inherited trauma literal, tangible, written down.
It gets worse. She starts hearing them, her ancestors' voices.
Oh, great.
All of them talking at once, confessing their crimes. The great-grandmother about Harold, the grandmother stuff, others admitting to adultery, theft, neglect, abuse. The air gets thick with whispered confessions.
A chorus of guilt. It's not just reading secrets. It's being immersed in the sound of generations of shame. An auditory hell.
So naturally, she tries to escape, tries to burn the whole place down. Gasoline, matches.
Does it work? I mean, it feels like it wouldn't.
Nope. Every match died the moment it was lit. The house just wouldn't let her.
Of course not. It's protecting its collection, its purpose.
That's when she gets it. The house is a trap. The inheritance wasn't a gift. It was the curse itself being passed on.
A generational curse disguised as a gift.
Yeah.
Well,
Each generation is basically trapped there.
until they could pass the curse to the next, the house demanded everything.
So what does she do? If she can't destroy it and she's trapped?
This is the really bleak part. She decides to pass it on to her cousin, transfers the deed.
Oh, Sarah, no.
Her justification is chillingly pragmatic. Someone has to feed the attic, and I've done my time. She lasted 4 months hearing those voices like wine through broken glass.
Wow. So she becomes part of the cycle she uncovered.
Exactly. And she even gives her cousin these specific warnings. Don't go in the attic right away. Don't read the journals. Avoid the rocking chair. Don't look for the hidden room.
But she knows it's useless, right?
Totally. She says the cousin's curiosity is in our blood. She even plants little seeds of doubt, mentions a possible gas leak or strange noises to give the cousin a rational reason to investigate later. It's pure manipulation.
Ensuring the house gets its next meal, basically.
All right.
Yeah. The story says the attic is very patient. It counts on the family traits, curiosity, guilt, and the shame and the tendency toward moral compromise.
And it doesn't just store the guilt, it multiplies it, compounds it. That's a nasty twist. It actively makes things worse.
And then this final, really creepy detail, a postscript from Sarah. She mentions the house has somehow erased its own history online. Like records of its existence are just gone.
Whoa.
There are some things even the internet has forgotten. The house has made sure of that. It's very protective of its collection.
That implies a level of power that extends beyond the house itself, beyond the family. It can manipulate the outside world, digital reality even, to protect itself.
It's intense. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other places like that might be out there hiding?
It really does.
So thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening to this? This story really pushes us to think about those invisible things we might inherit from our families, right? The secrets, the patterns, the burdens.
Yeah, and the idea of home not just being shelter, but potentially this active remembering, maybe even judging entity. How much does our family history shape us, and how much of that weight is truly ours versus something passed down?
It's a lot to chew on, which brings us to our final thought for you today, building on this deep dive.
If a house really could remember everything, every secret, every shame, every lie from everyone who ever lived there, would you dare step inside?
And maybe even more unsettling, if you did, what might it already remember about you?